Hi and welcome back to another pie video. If you saw my last video, I made a keto pie crust, and in this video you will find out how I made it, and I'm going to show you all of the ingredients, and the recipe will also be in the description of this video. And I have already used my food processor, so that is why it's a little dirty, and these are all of the things that I will put into the pie crust. So I'm using a few almonds, but I don't like almond flour per se in crust because I find it too sweet. So I'm also using some sunflower seeds and some flaxseed flour and some oat fiber, maybe. I've never tried the oat fibers before, so I don't know yet if I'm going to use them. But I'll show you how I try this because I don't have a recipe. I'm just starting out with some of these ingredients, and then I'll see if it will be a nice pie crust. So I'm using 50 grams of almonds, and I will just blend them up in my food processor. And I'm also using 50 grams of the sunflower seeds. They will make it not so sweet as if it was only almonds that I would use. So I'm putting those in the food processor, and I will just chop them up so they are a fine flour. And now I'm measuring out about 100 grams of the flax flour. And that is also going into the food processor. And if you don't have flax flour, you can also just use flax seeds and blend them up so they will get into a flour. I'm also putting in some salt and 1 egg. And then I'm just going to mix all of that up before I'll put in all of the butter. I'm cutting the butter into a little smaller pieces, and then I will blend that up as well. And I find that it can just need a little more fat. So instead of putting in some more butter, I have some pork fat or some lard that I will put in, and I rendered that myself some time ago, and that is really nice in pie crusts. And now the crust is almost there. I'm just putting in a little water, maybe 2 tablespoons or so, and I'm just putting it in the top of the food processor while I'm processing it, so I can see how the texture will go and if it's sticking together and so. And now I'm just putting in about 1/4 of a teaspoon of guar gum. I don't know if it will have any effect, but I had just heard that it should make it a little more crispy. So I'm just trying because it's keto, and usually a pie crust won't get that crispy if it's keto because there isn't any gluten or anything like that in it. And I like the feel of the dough. It's really nice and it's sticking together without being wet. So I'm taking all of it out of the food processor and I will put it onto some foil so I can pat it flat, and I'll put it into the fridge for some time before I'll roll it out. Just because it's a really soft dough compared to a normal pie crust. And normal pie crust you would also put in the fridge before rolling it out. But you can see it's really pliable and soft, and it's easy to shape it. So I'm really happy with the outcome of this one. And I like to shape it into a flat round disc, so it's easier when I'm going to roll it out because it's already in the right shape. And while I'm at it, I'm also going to make a regular pie crust so that my husband can eat that. So I'm just putting in some flour. I have some white wheat flour and I also have some spelt flour. So I will make it in the almost the same way as the keto one, just with some other flour. and I'm making the whole pie crust in the food processor. But if you wanted to, you could take the dough out before putting in the water and then just mixing it really slowly and gentle with your hands or with a spoon or so, just to prevent any gluten formation. That is what is making the dough tough, so the less you handle it, the better. And this dough also looks nice now, so I'm going to take that out of the food processor, and I will divide this into two because I made it a little bigger, so I can put one of the discs in the freezer and the other one I will use this day. And as you can see, the dough is a little sticky, so if I hadn't made it all the way in the food processor, I could have managed that a little better, but I'll just put on a little flour just to make it not so sticky. And now they are ready as well, so one in the freezer and one in the fridge. And now my keto dough has chilled, so it's a little harder, and I can roll it out now, so I'm going to try that. And I have this silicone mat that I'm putting down on my wooden table. I feel that is a little easier to work with. And then I'll put on some baking paper on the top so it won't stick to my rolling pin. And because of the lack of gluten, it is also a little softer and it will break more easily. So instead of just picking up the dough, I have turned the silicone mat on the top so I can pull it off, and then I'll just leave the pie crust on the baking paper and transfer it over to my dish, so that way it won't break. And I'm just touching up all of the edges so they will look nice as well. And then it's ready to go into the fridge again, just to chill a little before I will pre-bake it. And the regular pie crust will just get the same treatment. And I'm just putting out a little flour because it was a little wet. and then it's also ready to go into the fridge again. And then I will start up with making the filling for the pies, and they will be a little more traditional compared to the one in the last video. So I'm putting in some of my homegrown eggs and some cream cheese, and this is with garlic flavor, so that is really delicious and creamy. And I'm using a little Turkish yogurt. You could also use Greek or creme fraiche or anything like that. And I have my homemade herb salt, so I'm just putting a little of that in there. And then some garlic powder. A little black pepper. And I'm also going to use some heavy whipping cream. That's just because I had some open in my fridge, so you don't need to use this. Then I'm mixing it all up, and then it's almost ready to go into the pie. So now I'm going to pre-bake my keto pie crust. So I'm poking some holes in the bottom, and then I'll put on some baking paper, and I'm going to crush it up in my hands so it will fit better. It's a lot easier to make it fit in a pie crust or in a dish at any sorts if you do this. And then I have some green peas that I always use when I'm pre-baking my pie crust, so they are in this special bag, so I know that is what I'm using them for. And then I'm just spreading them out on the bottom, and then it will go into the oven for about 10 to 20 minutes on about 200 degrees Celsius or about 400 Fahrenheit, I think. And the peas will make the pie crust stay down and don't glide down the sides. And I'm going to make all of the fillings, so I'm chopping up some of my garden vegetables. This is a yellow zucchini, and some of my pretty tomatoes. Now the pie crust is ready for the filling, so I have some smoked chicken that I will put on top before the other things. And this is one of our own chickens that we butchered this summer, and we smoked in a smoker. And then I'm just taking all of the meat off of the chickens and putting them into smaller bags in the freezer so they won't take up that much space. And now I'm just distributing all of the zucchini and the tomatoes on top of that. And then I will put on the egg mixture and some extra cheese, and then it will go into the oven. And for the regular pie, I will do almost the same thing, but instead of the chicken, I will put in some bacon. And both of the pies turned out really nice, and the keto one was actually a little crispy in the pie crust, so that was really nice. And we had a piece of these the day I baked them, And then the next day was the day that Chick came to visit us, so she also tried both of them. And this is the keto pie, and it has cooled off for about half an hour, so it's really sticking together well, and as I said, the crust is really crispy. This is the one that's not keto, and it's just straight out of the oven, so it's falling apart a little because it's still so hot, but the next day it will be easier to cut. And now Chick is trying them both, and she actually liked the keto one a little better than the regular one. So that's a little funny because she don't usually eat keto. And I'll thank you for watching this video, and I hope that you want to subscribe to my channel and go and follow us on Instagram. And yeah, see you next time. Bye bye.